On this Tuesday night, tit-for-tat tariffs, how Canada is hitting back at the U.S.
We're going to stand up for you. We're going to stand up for industry. We're going to stand up for business.
Which businesses are eligible for federal support?
It seems complicated.
And as Ontario's premier backtracks, the U.S. president unleashes a new threat.
I think it's ridiculous. He's ridiculous to start with.
Plus, the world loses another member of music royalty. Remembering the bold, brilliant, and beloved Queen of Country, Dolly Parton.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jackson Prosco.
Hi there, and thanks for joining us. Canada is fighting back tonight as the federal government announces dollar-for-dollar retaliation for the tariffs imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. This is the list of American goods that will be hit with tariffs of up to 50%, and it's a long one. There are hundreds of products, including everything from American steel and aluminum to frozen fish to appliances and clothing. The $27.6 billion in tariffs are only one part of the response. Ottawa says it will also provide $7.5 billion to help Canadian businesses and workers weather the storm. We have extensive coverage tonight, beginning with Mackenzie Gray.
Hello, everyone.
The Canadian pushback on American tariffs now official.
Canada will impose counter-tariffs of up to 15, 25, or 50% on $27.6 billion in imports from the United States of America.
That matches the Prime Minister's dollar-for-dollar tariff promise, hitting a wide range of U.S. goods starting September 8th. The biggest, steel and aluminum, with some tariffs going to 50%, a part of nearly 700 different line items. That includes seafood, smartphones, pulp and paper products, dairy, perfumes, and clothes like men's suits, all goods the U.S. currently tariffs.
This is about protecting a Canadian industry impacted by U.S. tariff.
Playing defense for Canadian businesses was the Prime Minister's stated objective for the tariffs, but the industry minister taking a different path.
We're also targeting products that will target states in the U.S. And so we're being wise and strategic to put political pressure.
When asked by Global News what products and states are being hit, Melanie Joly said appliances, food and drinks, but wouldn't say if they're trying to go after Republican states ahead of the midterms. The tariffs seemingly catching the president's attention, even by Donald Trump standards. His 4 social media posts about Canada on Tuesday were a lot, including saying Mark Carney was a weak and ineffective prime minister.
One thing I've learned is not to comment on every remarks that is being made on either side of the border.
Senior government officials were unable to say how much revenue Canada estimates to bring in from counter-tariffs, a concern for the Conservatives.
What will the retaliatory tariffs mean for grocery bills, gas prices, and the cost of everyday goods? How much more will families have to pay?
Whatever's brought in is estimated to be less than the $7.5 billion in new supports for workers and businesses announced Tuesday, including a new $2 billion fund to help medium-sized businesses with maintenance and multiple changes to employment insurance that will allow workers to move to part-time hours and have EI top up the rest of their salary.
The more people that can keep their jobs, their current jobs, the healthier and more productive our communities remain.
There are no counter-tariffs on any energy or agricultural products like potash, core U.S. imports, Jackson. A card that could be used in the future if the Trump administration follows through on their threat to retaliate against Tuesday's tariffs.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa, thanks. Today's federal announcement wasn't just about retaliation. Ottawa is also providing billions of dollars in support to impacted businesses and their employees. As Jacqueline Hansen tells us, some small business owners are concerned they'll be too small to get the help they need.
Made in Canada clothing, now hit with tariffs made in the USA.
It's definitely directly impacting our sales.
But taking the government up on its support in grants or loans doesn't seem possible.
And unfortunately, they exclude a business of my size. So it's a little bit disappointing. I truly feel a lot abandoned by the Canadian government.
Many businesses are still trying to work through the details of what's being offered.
It seems complicated. We're a little worried how well businesses are going to be able to, or small businesses particularly, are going to be able to navigate some of these things.
There are also questions as to which sectors or categories of businesses will qualify for support. Is it just exporters hit by the 50% U.S. tariffs, or also businesses that import parts or supplies from the U.S. that will now be on the hook to pay Canada's retaliatory tariffs?
It ripples throughout the whole economy.
And while Canada's economy and Canadian consumers have been fairly resilient through the past year and a half of trade uncertainty, this latest escalation will likely take a toll.
It's very much going to lead to lower overall growth, weaker job growth in the Canadian economy, these retaliatory tariffs, and at the same time, boost inflation.
Testing Canadians' resolve for a trade fight and Canadian businesses' ability to keep going.
I'm definitely concerned about the future and, how are we going to grow sustainably? How are we going to retain our employees and be profitable?
Up against forces that are out of their control. Jacqueline Hansen, Global News, Toronto.
And a little later in the newscast, we'll take you inside the multi-billion-dollar Canadian industry facing a tariff problem that just can't wait. Canada's premiers are trying to dial down the cross-border tension the day after Ontario's Doug Ford got into a heated exchange with Donald Trump. Today, Ford acknowledged that getting personal won't get results. As Jillian Piper reports, provincial leaders are now bracing for what could be a very long fight.
A little heated. It got a little personal yesterday between the president and myself.
Less than 24 hours after hurling heated insults at Donald Trump.
I have a lot of real estate on my ass, so he has a lot of room to kiss my ass.
Doug Ford now trying to turn down the temperature, including backtracking on his threat to cut off Ontario's electricity exports.
We keep 1.5 million lights on in homes and businesses in New York and Michigan and Minnesota. I want to ship you more electricity.
But damage may already be done, with Trump writing the United States is giving serious consideration to changing the name of Lake Ontario to Lake America, in that we don't expect to be doing much business with Ontario any longer.
Well, I think it's a lot of rhetoric because we're the number one customer to 17 states.
The federal government would not say if the premier was directed to cool off.
We all know that Premier Ford is a very colorful person, and of course, emotions are high. But while this is all happening, we'll be smart.
Other premiers taking that advice, with New Brunswick's Susan Holt pumping the brakes on withholding energy anytime soon.
It would be an exceptionally serious move to do that, and so we would have to be in a position a lot further down the road than where we are in this trade war today.
Manitoba's Wab Canoe also calling for a steady hand, but underscores that does not mean conceding.
Canada is showing the rest of the world right now that you don't have to take a knee, you don't have to bow down.
Signaling that the provinces can wait out the president's tariffs.
Maybe the president just has to take an L in the midterms before he sees the writing on the wall.
But British Columbia's David Eby acknowledges that wait won't be easy.
If you're angry, I'm angry too. It's an unjustified attack on our families, and we have been nothing but good to the United States. It makes absolutely no sense.
The Prime Minister has instructed all of the premiers to bring in tariff supports that will last past the Trump presidency, indicating more than 2 years still to go in this trade war. Jackson?
Jillian Piper in Ottawa, thanks. And you can find the full list of Canada's 700 retaliatory tariffs on our website, globalnews.ca. Trump's threat to rename Lake Ontario Lake America is the latest strange development in this trade war. Like so much of what the president says on social media, it's not clear whether he's serious or if he's just trolling. Taria Isri has more on how Canadians and Americans are reacting to the suggestion.
Lake Ontario may be the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes, but it's a striking reflection of how low U.S.-Canada relations have sunk.
I think it's ridiculous. He's ridiculous to start with.
A president obsessed with remaking things in his own image now has his sights on the body of water.
It just doesn't have a ring to it, and it's just foolishness, honestly. Oh, that guy's dumb.
Donald Trump floated the idea of renaming the waterways straddling Ontario and New York, seen as retaliation in the public spat with the province's premier Doug Ford. Trump put out this map, calling it Lake America, then a Lego version of the rebrand.
He's just trying to get people riled up because he backs off on everything he does anyway.
Trump has done it before, renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. But that doesn't mean anyone or any agency will listen.
It's far more important to Canada than it is also to the United States. It's sort of the center, along with the St. Lawrence River, the sort of center of the original Canada. So it's a Canadian heartland. We've got like a quarter of the Canadian population living near Lake Ontario, and far outnumbers the New York side.
In Plattsburgh, New York, some Americans are just embarrassed.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous what's going on. Canada and the United States have always gotten along well.
He is America's bully. We're losing all respect across the world because of one man.
In his freewheeling social media posts, Trump also denied trying to roll back French language protections during trade talks. I would never interfere with Canadians speaking French. I love French Canadians. While the feeling isn't mutual, recent polling shows Trump is more disliked in Quebec than anywhere else in Canada. Taria Esri, Global News, Montreal.
A ground worker at Montreal Trudeau International Airport has died after being hit by an aircraft. The employee was struck last night around 7:30 by a reversing plane that was preparing for departure. The French B flight was bound for Paris. Airport authorities say support was provided to employees and passengers who witnessed the accident. The Transportation Safety Board is deploying investigators. In Pennsylvania, 2 unvaccinated people have died from measles as an outbreak there continues to spread. They're the state's first measles-related deaths in 35 years. The number of confirmed cases across the U.S. this year has surpassed 2,700. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control says 94% of new cases involve people who were unvaccinated or their status was unknown. The virus was declared eliminated in 2000, but is making a comeback as vaccination rates fall. The U.S. says it has reached a milestone in its efforts to clear the Strait of Hormuz as part of the ongoing war with Iran. On social media, President Donald Trump claimed the Navy has removed or detonated all mines from international waters, but control of the strait remains disputed. Meanwhile, new American sanctions this week aim to pressure Tehran, but are instead reigniting tensions with China. Redmond Shannon reports.
The Trump administration is hoping its new raft of sanctions will squeeze Iranians more than ever. The country's economy minister says Iran is fully prepared to respond to what he calls economic terrorism, including this week's secondary sanctions against those who trade with Iran.
No one is above this. We are going to hold everyone accountable.
Everyone, including Iran's neighbors, Russia, and its biggest trading partner, China. China says it opposes all unilateral sanctions not approved by the United Nations Security Council, adding that it will do everything it needs to protect its interests.
Any measures that would really target or attempt to cut China off from the dollar market would be taken very seriously. China has a lot of cards it can play as well in terms of its control of rare earth metals and various other levers that it has at its disposal.
Many analysts think Washington is doing this only to hurt Iran and not to reignite a trade war with Beijing.
Moving against China as a sovereign nation and the big economic players in China, I think are unlikely. We had just too many issues on the bilateral table with China.
The sanctions are landing ahead of next month's scheduled meeting of the Chinese and US presidents, and were issued on a day Pakistan's army chief visited Tehran, which one Iranian lawmaker said was to deliver a US message to revive peace talks. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
Rare and violent weather strikes part of France. Coming up, the destruction caused by a tornado. Parts of southern France have been ravaged by a tornado. It injured dozens of people and damaged hundreds of homes in the village of Poma on Monday. More than 1,000 homes are also without power. France typically has a few dozen tornadoes per year, but destruction on this scale is rare. In the U.S., the Trump administration is planning the largest mass revocation of visas in American history. As Candace Cole explains, it's targeting asylum seekers who are trying to stay in the country long term.
The U.S. State Department is expected to revoke some 200,000 business and tourism visas in the coming weeks, granted over the last 10 years, it says, to people who have applied for or are currently seeking asylum in the U.S.
I think this news is really trying to discourage other people from coming to the United States on tourist visas and then asking for asylum.
According to the Associated Press, which first reported the plan, State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigott said they're working with the Department of Homeland Security to revoke non-immigrant visas of foreign short-term visitors who file for protection.
Having their visa revoked really won't change their situation in the United States. They're allowed to stay in the country and in some cases able to work as long as their asylum case is pending before the government.
In a social media post, Deputy State Department Secretary Christopher Landau cited the case of a Colombian man who applied for asylum as a victim of war and impunity during Obama's second term as evidence of abusing the system.
Under U.S. law and under international law, somebody qualifies for asylum if they're facing a credible fear of persecution in their home country on the basis of several protected grounds, including race, religion, political opinion, things like that. Fleeing generalized violence, whether that's gang violence or a war, is not a protected ground for asylum.
Revocation of temporary stay visas for asylum seekers likely won't result in immediate deportations of applicants until their asylum cases are closed. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
Ahead, from bloom to bust, how the trade war could impact a budding Canadian industry. Well, Canada may not be wilting in its trade war with the U.S., but the country's flower industry says its products can't wait for a resolution. Tariffs are putting their orders at risk on products with a short shelf life. As Eric Sorensen reports, growers have already spent months and thousands of dollars on crops that are now caught in trade limbo.
They're gerberas, one of the varieties at Rosa Flora Farm where tens of millions of stems of cut flowers are grown per year. But cut flowers are among those being hit by U.S. tariffs.
My head is spinning and I'm...
Ariel and Ralph DeBoer's cross-border sales account for 70% of their business. And unlike hockey sticks, flowers are perishable within days.
We can only keep a flower fresh for up to a week. So the second that door is closed, we have a week to no sale.
This week, they're eating the U.S. tariffs themselves. But over time,
a 50% tariff is so significant that it catastrophically changes your business.
Flowers are a $2.5 billion business in this country. More flowers are grown in the Niagara, Hamilton, Haldeman area than any other agricultural product, and most go to the U.S. Rosa Flora is one of more than 200 flower farms in this region. They are close to the border, and flowers are shipped to the American East, South, and Midwest, many arriving within a day of being cut. Across the country, $150 million of cut flowers are exported to the U.S. With tariffs?
That'd be $75 million in tariffs right away.
Andrew Morse says federal support is welcome, but smaller farms than this, he says, may have difficulty staying afloat.
The reality is, with a tariff like this, it's simply not possible for many farms to survive in the long term with that kind of pressure on them, especially those that are export-oriented.
He probably wants to talk through some of that.
The De Boers are getting in touch with their American wholesalers. They hope they can split the tariff costs and still ship all their flowers and keep 200 people employed, all while working through government programs.
So as Canadians, we're confident that our leadership is making the right decisions. In the immediate term, for the business that we own, this is very difficult.
The De Boers say the best solution on both sides of the border for flowers and so many products is to get a deal and eliminate all tariffs. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Dunnville, Ontario.
Jolene, 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 Jolene.
Ah, that iconic voice. Next, remembering the talent and kindness of Dolly Parton.
Jolene, 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 Jolene. Please don't.
No one in between. How can we be wrong?
That's the legendary Dolly Parton performing Islands in the Stream with the late Kenny Rogers, one of the best duets of all time. Parton died today at the age of 80 after recently being diagnosed with cancer. She may have dressed outrageously, but she maintained a strong sense of dignity and was a champion of equality and literacy. Heather Yorick's West looks back at the life and legacy of the woman known as the Queen of Country.
Jolene, Jolene.
Her music touched fans across generations, delivered with a voice and trademark style that seemed everlasting. So when her nephew made the somber announcement Tuesday, it caught so many fans by surprise.
Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl.
Everybody thinks that I am sicker than I am. Do I look sick to you? I'm working hard here.
It was just 10 months ago that the country music legend took to social media to address rumors about her well-being, admitting that caring for her late husband, Carl Dean, whom she had been married to for 62 years, had caused her to neglect her own health.
The first thing I thought of was, oh no, in today's world, we need Dolly. We need more Dollys.
Born in 1946, Parton wrote and performed thousands of songs, including 25 that reached #1.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me.
But it was this one, Coat of Many Colors, Parton often said was her favorite because it told the story of her modest upbringing in Tennessee.
Dolly Parton was one of the great songwriters of the 20th century. If you look at a song like Jolene, it's a timeless classic. Even the White Stripes have covered it. And then, of course, she wrote I Will Always Love You, which was covered by Whitney Houston.
And with over 24 million copies sold, the 1992 hit remains one of the best-selling singles of all time.
Louis brought his girlfriend home.
Parton also appeared in more than a dozen movies, but her greatest legacy may be her imagination library, gifting books to millions of children worldwide.
The fact that she just started this wonderful program that brings families together and that increases early literacy with young children worldwide now as well is so impactful. She's had just such a huge impact on the whole world, really.
Dolly Parton was 80 years old.
And that is Global National for this Tuesday night. I'm Jackson Prosco. Tonight's Your Canada is the view from Mount Harvey near Lions Bay, BC. We always love to see your Canada. Please email it to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you here again tomorrow. Have a great night.